Welcome back to South Boston. 150 after 54 laps. Darrell Wallace Jr. has been out front every lap. Brett Moffitt on his outside. Green flag back in the air.
Most of the racetracks we go, that inside line is such an advantage on the restarts, and it certainly has proven that today.
Sergio Pena looked strong. The green flag came back out, but has settled back into his third spot. Matt DiBenedetto on the outside in that 15. These two up front, Darrell Wallace Jr. as well as Brett Moffitt continue to battle for the lead. Brett Moffitt trying a shorter line around this racetrack. It's a short racetrack already, but he's trying to shorten it up.
Yeah, 4/10 of a mile. He wants to make it a third of a mile.
Side by side, Max Gresham in the 18. Trying to take the spot away from the 62 of Andrew Smith.
Boy, Brett Moffitt with all four tires down below the yellow line. Car really turning well.
Amazing the speeds you can get on a 4/10 mile speedway. Nearly 100 miles an hour around here.
Yeah, you wouldn't think that. You would think you'd run about 60 or 70 miles an hour, but these cars with well over 600 horsepower can really get it done here. And Goodyear has a great bi-supply tire that will allow them to do that.
Darrell Wallace Jr. now a little bit of a cushion over Brett Moffitt in that 00. He's been able to put about 5 car lengths between first and second in this race, as we see Matt DiBenedetto now looking on the high side of Sergio Pena, now ducking back down to the low side. That's for third.
These two cars here have definitely been the class of the field. Nobody's been able to stay with them through the first 60 laps of this race.
Brett Moffitt continuing to cut feet off of this racetrack by going well below the yellow line.
Looks like what he gains through the center of the corner, though he loses a little bit up off the corner. Looks like when he goes from the transition from the apron of the racetrack down below the yellow line to the banking, it looks like he loses the back end just a little bit.
Keeps that 1 to 2 car length distance between 1 and 2. Darrell Wallace Jr. holding on to the spot, and right behind him it's Brett Moffitt. Again, Moffitt won the first race of the year, Greenville Pickens.
Former winner here. Remember, he won back in 2009, his first career victory.
Battle for the 7th spot, Andrew Smith, Ryan Gifford.
Andrew Smith has done a nice job in this race so far.
Andrew Smith starting 8th. Ryan Gifford just behind him.
Remember, Ryan Gifford, part of the RCR Team Dillon developmental program, basically on loan to Revolution Racing.
These two stay nose to tail as they work around the 4/10 mile racetrack. How much are you on the brakes at this racetrack, Phil?
Just a little bit. You really want that car to roll through the center of the corner, so you just check the speed when you get down to the end of the straightaway, and then you're off the brakes so that car will roll through the center.
See the front ends going down just as they enter the turns.
Ryan Gifford gets a little bit loose down there on the flatter part of the racetrack, down below the yellow line. It's a momentum racetrack. You just want to keep that thing wound up.
That's what Brett Moffitt's trying to do now, trying to wind that 00 up so he can reel in the 6 of Darrell Wallace Jr. as the top 2 are starting to reel in the slower lap traffic here.
New crew chief on board Darrell Wallace Jr.'s car this year as well. Dave McCarty, who we know from the Camping World Truck Series, was a crew chief at Spears Manufacturing Team for a number of years. He's on the pit box for Darrell Wallace Jr.
Closing the gap. Brett Moffitt getting ever so close to the back bumper of Darrell Wallace Jr. now. See Michael Cherry just in front of this group, and that 0 or in the 8. Remember, he spun, actually had a little help from his teammate earlier to bring out the most recent caution, came onto pit road, and now it doesn't look like that car is running near as well as it was earlier.
Yeah, he moved up the racetrack. Certainly could have damaged those tires in that spin.
Brett Moffitt has closed the gap now all over the back bumper of Darrell Wallace Jr.
Just about halfway through this one, Brett Moffitt's car seems to be getting a little bit stronger, or Darrell Wallace Jr.'s car is falling off just a touch.
Brett Moffitt with a good run on the inside of the track. Contact is made between he and Darrell Wallace Jr. Wallace Jr. able to stay in front.
Fired a shot across the bow there a little bit, didn't he?
Here's a good battle between Eddie McDonald and the 9 of Chase Elliott. They're battling for that 10th spot. Look at how low Chase Elliott goes on the racetrack.
Wow. He had room for another car beside him below the yellow line.
While these two settle it for 10th, still a battle for the lead up front. Here comes the 00 of Brett Moffitt. Moffitt on the inside now of Darrell Wallace Jr.
Great side-by-side battle. Oh, a little bit more contact.
8 tires are better than 4, and Brett Moffitt's going to use all 8. Here he goes, trying to get by that 6 of Darrell Wallace Jr.
What's really funny is when he's running behind him, he has all 4 tires below the yellow line, and now that he's racing side by side, his left sides are on the yellow line.
Darrell Wallace Jr. trying to pay back Brett Moffitt. Tried to get to the back bumper of that race car, but now it doesn't look like he's going to be able to. Here comes Brett Moffitt taking the lead at the halfway point.
Boy, it looks like that car is so good up off the corner. Able to get the power down, not spin the tires at all. Now there's some pretty heavy lap traffic.
Now we'll see who gets through it the best. The 00 Brett Moffitt trying to get by the 64 of Rick Godovic.
Going to move by on the inside. Rick stays in the bottom lane and gives him the apron.
They're driving on the inside of this racetrack, and then when they get to the straights, they go to the wall.
We talk about this racetrack not having a whole lot of banking, and it certainly doesn't. But it's definitely flatter down there where Brett Moffitt's running, but there's just more grip down there.
12 degrees of banking when you're on the racing surface, but the apron, not nearly as much. So Brett Moffitt now continuing to put cars a lap down. That was the 54 of Julian Albarracin.
Cody Hodson, the 03 car, had a top 10 finish in his debut at Greenville this year.
About to lose another lap to our race leader. Problems for Chase Elliott. He makes the hard left turn. It's a right front tire that's down.
Tough break for Chase Elliott. 4 crew members allowed over the wall. We talk about not being able to change tires, but obviously that tire flat on the wheel, the NASCAR officials will allow them to change that tire.
What a disappointment after his 4th place finish to start the season. Now at least 1 lap down. He'll be probably 2 laps down before he gets back out on the racetrack and competitive.
When you lap this racetrack at 15 or 16 seconds, more than likely Chase is probably going to end up 3 laps down after that pit stop.
Darrell Wallace Jr. now following the 00 of Brett Moffitt. For the first half of this race, it was all Darrell Wallace Jr. Now Brett Moffitt has decided to take the point, and he begins to work through the slower lap traffic. Next on his list, the 37 of Ryan Lynch.
Daniel Suarez, the 12 car, is next. Darrell Wallace Jr. slips a little bit, loses some more ground to Brett Moffitt.
Suarez, as you mentioned, taking the preferred line around the racetrack, but Brett Moffitt goes to the inside.
Suarez essentially doing double duty this year. Will run the full NASCAR Mexico series as well as the majority of these East races.
Suarez out of Monterrey, Mexico. Brett Moffitt now able to negotiate his way through the slower traffic better than Darrell Wallace Jr. So a big gap between 1 and 2 now.
Some slide the back end a little bit up off the corner when he came off the transition from the apron, the flat of the racetrack, onto the banking. Has to be careful not to abuse those rear tires.
When he got his first win, he was the youngest pole and race winner in series history. That was back when he was 16 years 9 months old. Well, he is a wily veteran now at the age of 18.
Wily veteran, that's for sure.
Now stuck behind that 46 of Brandon Godovic. Father-son duo.
Brett has top 5 finishes in the points, both his full-time years, and in 09 and 2010. A little bit of contact with the 24 of Zach Germain.
Again, Germain had problems on the front stretch, got into the turn 4 wall, and now blocking the 00 of Brett Moffitt as he's trying to get by.
Brandon Godovic trying to stay on the lead lap with that 46 car.
You see that while Brett Moffitt has been trying to get by these slower lap cars, that's allowed the 6 of Darrell Wallace Jr. to close the gap once again.
Nobody in between first and second right now.
Darrell Wallace Jr. running second. Just in front of him, Brett Moffitt. Sergio Pena still holding on to the 3rd spot.
See, Zach Germain had trouble. There's Michael Cherry with problems again. Right rear tire is down on that 8 car.
So he makes the hard left turn. He'll go back onto pit road. They'll have to continue working on that race car. We saw the 9 of Chase Elliott on pit road earlier after they had to change the right front tire of that car. Now the 08 of Clay Campbell just in front of our race leader. And there's a rookie stripe on the back of that 08.
Yeah, great to see Clay Campbell out here having fun. Oh, Chad Boat is around in the 98. Looked like he had some contact from the 27 of Cale Conley.
Short track racing. Let's take another look.
There's a 27 of Cale Conley. He does get into the left rear quarter panel of Chad Boat right in front of our leaders.
Around goes Boat. Caution comes out once again. It's the 4th one of the day. This time it'll be Brett Moffitt who will have the preferred line on the restart. To his outside will have to be that 6 of Darrell Wallace Jr. Stay with us here on Speed.